Well, good morning and welcome to Elevenses. You're watching Kevin Williams here from Survival Skills Rider Training. We'll be bringing you the latest news from around the motorcycling world. What have we got for you today? Well, stop press piece of news. Do trainers need mandatory face coverings? I'll be looking at the latest advice from the Driving Instructors Association. Stafford Classic Bike Show has been cancelled. Motorcycle Live 2000 goes ahead online. The COVID impact on manufacturers is becoming clearer, and a question from a piece of recent research: should we be telling riders not to look further ahead? I'll be looking at the implications of that bit of research at the end of the show. So sit yourself down with a brew and a biscuit, and you can join me live twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, although I think Sunday's episode will actually be a recording. If you've got a question, a comment, anything you want to say, ask, any feedback, do drop me a line and I'll be more than happy to sort that out at the end of the show. So, all right, let's move on quickly. First thing to say is this is actually 6 months now of Elevenses. I started this show as we entered lockdown at the end of March. I didn't expect it to run for 6 months. I'm a little bit surprised actually that people have watched. I know the live viewing figures aren't fantastic some days, but a lot of people do actually catch up with it later on in the day when they get home from work. Or over on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I'll be keeping them coming for the time being. Now, all right, first item though, face coverings. As you probably know, I'm a motorcycle trainer, and one of the things that I've been very aware of since I relaunched my courses in June is the need to take some precautions to deal with the COVID virus. And face coverings do seem to be effective in preventing, or at least reducing the chances if somebody does have a COVID infection of passing it on to others. And even though we're out in the open air, obviously any step that we can take which reduces the risk to trainees has to be good. Clearly, the question is mostly aimed at car driving instructors who are clearly sitting in the same vehicle as their trainees, but obviously I do also conduct sort of face-to-face discussions at times during the course, even though I've put most of my theory stuff online. So the DIA is currently seeking clearance from the DVSA on what is actually required, and they say that they will update members as soon as possible. So if you're a motorcycle trainer, keep an eye on this. The way that this is likely to be worded, it could well refer to everybody, not just those working in vehicles like taxi and private hire drivers and bus drivers and possibly car instructors. So do keep an eye open for that as well. Not surprisingly, due to the rapidly worsening situation and the rule of 6 and the increased numbers of localized lockdowns, not just in England, but also in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, in response to the rising rate of the COVID-19 virus, the Stafford Classic Bike Show is a victim, I'm afraid. It was only given the go-ahead a couple of weeks ago, but it has now been cancelled. And Morton's Media Group have reluctantly cancelled the show. It was scheduled for October 10th, 11th at Staffordshire County Showground. As they say, bringing in classic bike enthusiasts from all over Europe, it has a strong social day out with a friends element, and the organisers feel that this is the most responsible course of action and the safest thing to do, bearing in mind they have put the well-being of both their visitors and the traders at the show to be important. Morton's will contact if you have made an advance booking by ticket, and they'll also contact you if you're a trader who's got a booking as well in due course. On the plus side, though, Motorcycle Live Online will be available, and that'll go ahead from the 21st to the 29th of November. And the organisers of that say it will allow bike fans to enjoy an array of unique content, see the latest bikes, and enter exclusive competitions. It's supported by Bike Shore Insurance, and the manufacturers and key brand holders within the motorcycle industry, as well as show attendees, can expect to get their traditional biking fix, but for free. So how do you get to see Motorcycle Online? Motorcycle Live Online, I should say. You basically sign up via the newsletter, or you follow Motorcycle Live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. So you should be able to locate one of those without too much difficulty. Finlay McCallan, who's the managing director of Motorcycle Live, said, when we made the difficult decision to postpone Motorcycle Live this year, our thoughts instantly turned to how we could still offer our visitors a show experience. We're looking forward to delivering motorcycle and scooter launches, exclusive competitions, bargains, and latest news to our fans over the course of the show. By presenting the Motorcycle Live Online over the course of the normal 9-day show period, we hope to give fans, followers, and regular visitors plenty of entertainment and give something back for all the support we've been shown over the years. Okay, so have a look for that. Motorcycle Live Online, you can find it on the following websites. I'll put this up onto the screen for you. It'll come up in a comment. There you go. That's the link to Motorcycle Live Online. Right, okay. So don't forget, you are watching Survival Skills here and my Elevenses show. I'll be back on Wednesdays and Sundays at 11 for 15-20 minutes of news, views, and better biking tips as well. Now, Wednesday's show, whilst I remember it, no, hang on a minute, we are Wednesday, aren't we? Sunday's show will probably be a recording, and so might well be the following Wednesdays due to other activities in my diary. So, okay. What else? Well, manufacturers have all suffered big drops in their revenue and sales from April to June, thanks to the pandemic. The scale of the impact is actually made clear by the figures that Honda have released. They lost 45% of their revenue, which fell to just under £2 billion. But the interesting thing is, thanks to their position as the biggest manufacturer of motorcycles by far, they actually managed to stay in profit. Only just, mind. It was their profit was down 85%, but it was at least a profit of 80 million. By comparison, the car division lost 1.4 billion pounds. Kawasaki and Suzuki have both suffered financial losses this first financial quarter, and it's particularly concerning for Kawasaki as it comes on the back of a poor financial year last year where they actually lost money too. Sales have been particularly badly hit in certain parts of the globe. For example, in India, sales have actually dropped 80%, and Indonesia was just a couple of percentage points behind. Remarkably, China, their sales were only down by 2%. Now, here is something that may be a little bit controversial, but one of the staple sayings of driver and rider training is always been lift your view, look further ahead. Much is made of the vulnerability, particularly of new road users, to crashes, and many times the conclusion is that the crash happened because they didn't see the hazard early enough. So the idea is that if we lift our view, look further down the road, we will see those hazards in better time, and then with more time, we're more likely to deal with it safely. I've always been a little bit skeptical about that because it appears to be one of those beliefs which appears at first sight to be logical, self-evident, but it's not based on any proof that I can find. It's just basically a body of anecdotal law which has grown up around driver training, since the Second World War and more recently. And I've always thought that we're actually eyeing up, literally, the wrong problem here. It's the wrong solution anyway. And new research from a UK-based team is actually casting doubt on the effectiveness of this look further ahead advice. And their research actually suggests that something that's been the focus of my survival schools training courses for many years is actually correct. Now, it's based firmly on my prior experience as a courier. I've always realized or always thought that, in fact, most of the nasty surprises don't come from away in the distance. Yes, it's useful to be able to see problems further ahead because it does, in fact, give you more time to deal with them. But most of the nasty surprises, the things that shock us and catch us out, don't come from ahead, they come from the sides. And I've always felt that it's essential for us to improve our lateral scanning rather than thinking more and more and more about the distance view. We can always slow down to deal with what's in the distance if we need to, but it's very difficult to get extra view laterally. We can use positioning in the lane, clearly, but there is a limit to how much we can improve lateral view. But we can do two things. Once we actually understand that it's the lateral view which is important, we can firstly realize that the danger comes from something called a surprise horizon. Now, these will be something like an unseen vehicle that is emerging into a road from a side turning or a driveway or a farm entrance, or even a petrol station entrance where there's a Costa coffee mug blocking the driver's view. It could be a cycle emerging from a cycleway. It could be a horse coming out of a bridleway. It could be a pedestrian stepping out of a footpath. It can even be an animal coming out through a hole in the hedge. But all of these have the potential to appear in our path very, very suddenly indeed. So anything that creates a problem like that where we cannot see is something we need to focus on. And these are what I call vision blockers. Now, vision blockers, think about what blocks our view. It's very simple and straightforward. It could be a hedge, it could be a wall, it could be a building, it could be the road signs themselves, it could be something like that Costa mug I just mentioned. Even a telegraph pole or a street light has thickness, and being on a motorcycle, we can disappear behind those very easily. Even pedestrians standing at the side of the road reading a newspaper or something is big enough to create a vision blocker for whoever is behind it. So what we need to do is I try to identify these vision blockers and think about the lines of sight that we have with other road users. And these vision blockers are what creates the surprise horizons where these sudden hazards leap out from behind us. Now, as I say, I learned all this years and years and years ago as a courier when I figured out most of these frights come from the lateral problems. Until recently, though, I'll be perfectly frank, I've been pretty much a lone voice struggling to be heard with this concept. The only people I know who are focused on the issue are Stephen Haley, who wrote a book called Mind Driving, where he, as far as I know, that's where he coined the term surprise horizon. So I give him all credit for coming up with that surprise horizon term. And an unknown US blogger who many years ago I read an article. I cannot find it anymore. I suspect the site has long since disappeared off the internet, but he came up with the term vision blocker, which I've also adopted. And personally, I think that both of those should be in our lexicon of advanced riding skills, even basic riding skills. Somebody asked me how I would rewrite roadcraft the other day, and well, that's the first thing I put in. Okay, so what's the evidence for this? Well, it's some research by a pair, Chloe Robbins and Peter Chapman. They're both at the University of Nottingham, and what they did was they investigated whether novice drivers and experienced drivers have different search patterns. Now, here's the really interesting thing. No reliable differences were found in several areas. First of all, fixation duration, and that is essentially how long we look at a specific part of the visual field to process the information. So in other words, if we see a car, we look at it, the brain then processes that information and says, all right, okay, what has just attracted your attention? Well, it's a car. We look at it, we process that information, and now we log it as a vehicle that we need to think about. They didn't find any significant differences in the vertical spread of search, i.e. how we look back and forth along the road. It turns out that novice drivers actually do look ahead, just like experienced drivers. That likewise, there was no significant difference in the number of fixations. In other words, in individual objects around the visual field that attract our attention and make us aware that there are items out there which we need to log to register. So no difference in fixation duration, no distance in back and forth searching, no distance in the number of things that the novice driver actually looks at. But what the authors did find was that novice drivers have a narrower spread of horizontal search compared with experienced drivers. So experienced drivers do scan left and right, whereas novice drivers are monofocused on the view ahead. What are they told to do? Look further ahead, you'll see the hazards earlier. Not if the hazard comes immediately from our side, they won't. And this is the flaw in this reasoning. So novice drivers don't scan left and right, and that's where these surprise horizons are lurking, hidden by these vision blockers that I've just described. And Robbins and Chapman make a very important point. They say, to quote, "These findings have important primary implications for the development of novice training interventions, with novice drivers needing to develop a broader spread of visual search, but not necessarily to learn to fixate further down the road." And actually, I go a step further. Although individually novice road users are more at risk of having a crash, we know that. The majority of crashes on the road, the vast majority of crashes in terms of numbers, actually happen to ordinary, averagely experienced riders and drivers like you and me. And many of us are caught out by everyday situations, which retrospectively we tend to look at and think that would never happen to me. Most drivers are caught out, most riders are caught out. If you think about it, the most common crash that a biker has is with a vehicle turning across their path. Where does that come from? It doesn't come from hundreds of meters down the road. It comes from close up where we need to spread our lateral search. So the stats don't lie. Many bike collisions, as I say, they happen at junctions, driveways, farmyards, entrances, petrol stations, industrial estates, all the places I've just mentioned, because the rider didn't see the potential for an emerging vehicle and was unable to react to the emerging vehicle when it did uncloak itself into their visual field. So the potential, the solution has to be to see the potential for the crash before the emergency actually develops, and then we can do all the other things that we know that we should be doing, like changing position, slowing down, maybe sounding the horn in advance. So, but to do that, we have to change the way we look at the road. We need to stop thinking about looking further ahead, and we actually start to need to think about looking more and more sideways. So, okay, that's a fascinating piece of research, which I think really needs to be written into any new rider training scheme, whether that's for learners, whether it's for experienced riders, or whether it is even for expert riders. All right, okay, that's pretty much wraps up today's show. I hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget, you are watching Kevin Mims here with Elevenses. If you want to come over to my coffee page, there's the link there. You will find that I have just completed putting up the whole of 2015's posts from Facebook, and I'm working now my way through 2016. So you can come over there and join that up as a supporter, and you'll get access to all those. If you want to see this show, if you missed some of it, you can catch it up here on Facebook, or you could head over to my YouTube channel, which is, there it is, the URL's on there. Don't forget the all-important UK on the end of survival skills on that one. Right, thanks for viewing. As I say, next show will be Sunday. I think that will be a recorded show. I'm looking at doing a special on the implications of the highway code review, which is happening right this moment. So keep an eye open for that. I'll be back, as I say, in just a couple of days. So take care out there. Be safe. Enjoy your riding while you can, and be careful as well. So, all right, take care. Bye for now.